you are here visiting Oaklawn today, do you see that we might be able to have gambling throughout the rest of the state, or at least through Hot Springs downtown?
Well, one thing that Oaklawn's always done here in Hot Springs is work with the local community to ensure that they have local support for whether it's electronic games of skill or Sunday gambling and so forth. And I think it's very important that we have that kind of local and state input before we have any further expansion.
Great. Let's go on to this recent thing in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, how many, was it 12 or 13 Coptic Christians that were killed?
Unfortunately, 21 Egyptian Christians were beheaded earlier this week by the Islamic State in Libya, which just goes to show that the president's strategy is failing and the Islamic State is expanding beyond Iraq and Syria to other areas, not the Middle East. Right.
Well, do you think, I mean, what is ISIS exactly compared to the Islamic State? Like, what is the difference besides extremism? But, I mean, do you know the difference, like where they were trained? I mean, with that kind of stuff?
Well, the Islamic State started out as a group called Al-Qaeda in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
That's the groups that we fought against in Iraq back in 2006.
Right.
And the president's own deputy director of the CIA said they were defeated in 2011. Unfortunately, when the president disregarded the best judgment of his military commanders and withdrew all the troops from Iraq in 2011,
mm-hmm.
that gave them the time, and then Syria and the civil war there gave them the space they needed to regroup, reconstitute, and become the Islamic State, which in some ways is even more extreme, more savage than Al-Qaeda.
Right, and maybe that leads me to the question of, sometimes you look at this war that keeps going and it's just perpetually getting worse. I mean, do you feel like sometimes military presence when innocent civilians get killed only creates more wannabe terrorists?
No, I don't. I think weakness is provocative, and
Okay.
the United States has been attacked by terrorists and terrorist-supporting regimes repeatedly for decades.
Right.
Sometimes we've responded as we did in the last decade, but too often we haven't responded, and that just makes America look weak and in retreat. And it encourages radical Islamists to go to groups like the Islamic State because they're perceived to be on the offense, on the cutting edge of history. Once again, we need to get back on the offense, and we need to kill or capture our enemies, and we need to show them that they are not going to be able to defeat us, they're not going to be able to intimidate us. There's lots of other things that we have to do to counteract our enemy, but the fundamental thing we have to do is show military strength.
Peaceful. I mean, do you see any solution to create a peaceful world in this?
Well, the
mess?
best guarantor of peace is strength, and
Okay.
you have to have military strength, and you have to show that you're willing to protect your interests and defend your allies abroad. And right now, in too many places around the world, America is seen as an uncertain ally and a timid enemy, whether that's with the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or with Ukraine and Russia, or in East Asia. Once again, we have to show that we will protect our interests and defend our allies overseas, and send the signal that the United States is the global guarantor for order and peace in a chaotic and dangerous world.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.